Welcome. Scott here. Today I am bringing you another Black Clover mobile video. In this video, I will be covering on the upcoming festival Mage for the half anniversary event, Spirit Dive Yuno. In general, Spirit Dive Yuno is a sense attribute type attacker. Most of Yuno's mechanic revolves around his Spirit Dive buff, which can be only obtained upon using his special. His skill 1 applies reduced mobility. His skill 2, an AoE attack, applies a stronger variant of reduced mobility as well. If you have his skill page, he will apply barrier block debuff on all targets. If Spirit Dive is active, skill 1 will boost Yuno's speed while skill 2 will inflict AoE silence on the designated target. His special will boost Yuno's speed while granting him the important Spirit Dive buff while inflicting total silence on the target for 2 turns. His combo attack removes immortality. With his passives, it helps to improve his survivability by gaining invulnerability buff while boosting his damage. His LR passive allows him to gain the Blessing of the Wind Spirit buff whenever he takes a turn. Blessing of the Wind Spirit will increase up to 5 stacks, with each stack giving Yuno a 10% boost to his damage dealt. If Yuno is inflicted with total silence, the Blessing of the Wind Spirit buff will be dispelled. At LR plus 2, upon gaining his Spirit Dive buff from his special, Yuno will gains the invulnerability buff for 1 turn. When the buff is active, Yuno will receive 0 HP damage. At LR plus 5, other than the invulnerability buff, his Blessing of the Wind Spirit will gain 10% damage boost. Similar to past festival units, Spirit Dive Yuno is a pretty strong attacker mage. However, his Spirit Dive buff requires high SP refill mechanics to support, thus allow him to be dependent on his skill page or other mages that have SP refill utility. For story or PvE content, most of the times, SP refill isn't an ultra important utility that you need. However, for PvP, you will want Yuno to have the ability to spam his special so he can maintain the invulnerability buff. This is an important mechanic since it will ensure Yuno's survival ability. For PvE content, Yuno isn't dependent on his skill page. In fact, the generic Breath of Darkness skill page works well for him. However, if you intend to use him for PvP, he need the skill page for the SP refill utility to increase his chances of using his special to upkeep his Spirit Dive and invulnerability buff from his LR enhancement passive. For gear sets, the standard attacker mage gear sets work for him, which includes advanced attack, advanced speed, advanced critical rate and advanced critical damage. So should I pull for him? In my opinion, there isn't a general consensus on whether to pull for a unit. It really depends on whether you are a free-to-play or having a vast roster already. To be dominant in PvP, Spirit Dive Yuno needs the complementary partner mages to enable his SP refill fast enough to maintain his Spirit Dive. Unlike previous festival mages, Julius, Black Asta, and Miriolianot, Spirit Dive Yuno isn't a self-sustainable mage and you need to build a team comp to support him rather than building a team comp around his mechanics. Mages with SP refill utility like Ceremony Charlotte, Party Mimosa, and some of the upcoming mages are important to build when you are intending to use Yuno for PvP. The new upcoming festival Valkyrie Noelle is probably the best future partner mage for him. Because of Valkyrie Noelle passive that permits no other defender mage other than her present to be activated, Spirit Dive Yuno or Julius are the only festival mage options that you can partner with her unless you are willing to forego her powerful passive support. Despite the restrictive party team comp requirements, Spirit Dive Yuno is still good investment mage that you can build around if you are a new player. When he is released, he will be returning with the proven Black Asta. If you have been watching my videos in clearing endgame raid or other PvE content, the uses of Black Asta is always there. If you are new and able to go into a pity, I would suggest you to get Black Asta and target to get Yuno when his banner return in the future. Likewise, if you are unable to invest deep into the banner, or going into pity, on Black Asta who need max enhancements and his skill page, you can opt to go for the investment-friendlier Spirit Dive Yuno for the objective of clearing PvE content. Before I proceed to talk about his kit, let me briefly explain the fundamentals of building a good team comp. In general, every good team comp needs a balanced set of characters playing their various roles. To be honest, bringing a full team of attacker mages won't get you to clear endgame content. Spirit Dive Yuno is a good attacker mage that could fit in most any team comps for PvE content. You can abuse turn manipulation with his mobility drain mechanics by pairing him with Julius, Lotus, and Mars. You can use him for nuking setups by pairing with offensive supporter units like Sally, Finral, Voltos, Swimsuit Gauche or Gipso. However, if you intend to use him for arena, he needs heavy investment on his enhancements and skill page. Being an attacker mage, skills upgrade is very important. Even at level 2, you can see exponential increase in the skill damage potencies. To upgrade the skills, you need to use will shards. Will shards can be bought at the world regional shops monthly. If you upgrade your world reputation to level 2, you will unlock the option to buy the highest tier upgrade material. If you haven't done so, I will suggest you to start leveling up the reputation level by doing bond patrol or memory hall fights for that specific world. You can also get skills upgrade materials at your squad shop if you have joined a squad. You can buy them weekly with guild medals or monthly with guild raid coins. So try to level up and join a guild. If you have spending power, you can buy skills enhancement chests at the premium Black Crystal shop. Now let me go through his skill set. His skill 1 Whirlwind is a single target attack that will apply a 15% reduced mobility debuff. If Spirit Dive buff is active on Yuno, the ability will also grant Yuno a 10% increased speed buff for a turn. His skill 2 Wind Rain is an AoE attack that applies 50% reduced mobility on all enemies. If Spirit Dive buff is active on Yuno, the ability will apply silence on the designated target for a turn. Silence will prevent the unit from using skill 2. If you have his skill page, the ability will be enhanced and applies barrier block on all targets for 2 turns. His special Spirit Storm is a single target attack ability. Upon using the skill, Yuno will inflict a total silence on the target for 2 turns. It will also grant Yuno his important Spirit Dive buff for 2 turns. The ability also boosts Yuno's speed by another 20%. Total silence will prevent the target from using all skills except for skill 1. His combined attack is a single target attack with the partner mage and it will remove any active immortality buff on the target. Spirit Dive Yuno has ramp up mechanics similar to Julius. For every turn he takes, he will gain a stack of Blessing of Wind Spirit which boost his damage by 10%. Speed is an important factor in using Yuno. As you can see, his efficiency revolves around upkeeping his Spirit Dive buff which can only be obtained from his special. Thus, to allow Yuno to be dominant for PvP, he needs a team comp that support SP refill or having a high enhanced level skill page to boost his SP recovery. In general, do make an effort to invest and upgrade his skills damage potencies and you will reap the benefit a lot. Now let's cover on his skill page. Similar to the last 2 festival mages, Black Asta and Mirioliana, his skill page is a skill page that is designed exclusively for Yuno's mechanics. When Spirit Dive buff is active, the skill page will grant a 20% chance of granting Yuno a +1 SP buff when he attacks a target. At max enhancement, you can increase the activation rate to 100% and the SP buff refill will be upgraded to +3. This skill page will greatly enhances his skill 2 that allows him to apply barrier block debuff on all targets. Barrier block will prevent the unit to have barrier applied on them. This is very useful in tackling enemies who can put up barriers. Unless you are targeting the upper leagues and have big spending power, I won't recommend you to chase too hard for dupes of the skill page. You can end up hurting your resources to pull for the upcoming units. It is also awfully hard to get the skill page and you probably have heard of people having their resources stash wiped while chasing for the skill page. Similar to most attackers, if you don't have their skill page, you can use skill page that focus on raising their damage potencies. For skill page replacement, you can use base Fauna skill page or Breath of Darkness, the free SSR skill page that you get at the start of the game. Alternatively, you can also consider Lepald's skill page or Mysterious Book skill page as alternate budget optons. Now let's cover on his talents. To understand what is the best talent settings, you need to know the mage's role. Spirit Dive Yuno's primary role is an attacker mage. In PvE, fighting a prolonged battle won't benefit him a lot, so you want to kill off the opposition or deal as much damage possible once he uses his special. For his attack talent wheel, I would suggest giving his increased critical damage and sharp mind, which boost both critical damage and total damage dealt potencies. For Craved Stone, you can use Destruction Talent Stone. If you are using Yuno for PvP content, the Battle Frenzy and increased magic attack passives will be more favorable. Attack Talent Stone is also preferred if you don't give Yuno gear with high critical rate stats. For the Defense Talent wheel, I recommend you to go for the Endurance Defensive Talent, which gives him 4% defense and 2% critical resistance, up to 5 times per wave, along with increased defense that boost his defense by 20%. For the Craved Stone, you will want to give him the Defense Talent Craved Stone. In the Support Talent wheel, you should choose the increased damage resistance for the 10% damage reduction. For the other talent, you can pair it with either Mage's Blessing or increased accuracy or penetration. Mage Blessing allows him to have a 20% chance of cooldown his skill 2, which could allow Yuno to spam his skill 2. This will help a lot to deplete opposition mobility, applying barrier block while inflicting silence on the designated target. You can also opt to use increased accuracy and penetration to enhance his damage potencies. Penetration stats is good for attackers. Whenever your mage attacks, a certain portion of the target's defense is ignored when damage is dealt based on the character's penetration stat. On the other hand, accuracy will helps to boost Yuno's survivability, as it allows him to have higher chance of damage reduction activation. Personally, I would recommend the Mage's Blessing over increased penetration and accuracy. This setup strikes a good balance, considering Yuno's flexibility with kits and abilities. For Craved Stone, I will prioritize on giving him Speed Stone, since Yuno will increase his speed fast enough to apply silence or total silence to negate opposition mages. If you intend to bring Spirit Dive Yuno to endgame PvE content or PvP, I would highly recommend you max out all his talent wheels. Now let's focus on his gear sets. Generally, you want to target for advanced gear sets pieces. It doesn't matter whether you give Spirit Dive Yuno attack or magic attack, since his Blessing of Wind Spirit mechanics boost his total damage. I would suggest you to build focus on magic attack sets, since Yuno has higher magic attack stats and green supporter like Voltos and Party Mimosa boost magic attack on their abilities. The Omnius gear set is the most important gear sets that you want to equip on Spirit Dive Yuno, since it will boost both his magic attack and attack stats by 7%. You will always want Yuno to be a fast-moving unit, so he can constantly apply reduced mobility on opposition targets. Thus giving him advanced speed set gear pieces is important, so he moves faster than enemies to apply his reduced mobility debuff to negate opposition from taking their turns to act. It is important for Yuno to act first so he can apply his silence or barrier block debuffs. As you probably will want Yuno to spam his special as much as possible, the new gear set pieces, Millionaire Luxuries item, from the Advanced Power Gear dungeon are good options for him as well. In my opinion, I will suggest you to use the Secret of Deep Sea set, since it offers better benefits unless you are having difficulty to get copies of that gear pieces, or you have higher transcended level on the Millionaire Luxury item gear pieces. The last gear set pieces can be either boosting his critical rate or critical damage. As a general rule of thumb for any attacker mage gear, you will want to have as high critical rate and critical damage stats for the mage when they equip the gear. To nuke any enemy of 1,000,000 HP and above, Yuno need to have at least total 25k of attack and magic attack stats and at least 80% critical damage. To trigger critical damage, you need to have decent critical rate. I will recommend you to have minimally at least 55% critical rate, since you can cover the shortfall with critical rate gear or critical rate up buffers like Sally or Finral. If you don't have Sally, please do consider in getting her in future ticket exchange. She is really a valuable supporter that complements nuking setup. If you don't have good barrier support, the advanced defense set will be important for Yuno's survivability, but you need to enchant a lot to boost the gear's critical rate and critical damage. You can refer to the second gear set shown on the screen. For gear substats, if you are free to play, I would suggest you to focus on critical rate and critical damage first, followed by magic attack percent and attack percent stats. Generally, you can easily boost your attack over time by transcending attacking gear pieces. If you have spending power, you can go with attack or magic percent as your first priority, together with both critical rate and critical damage. Please do note that enchantment is a very costly investment of your premium black crystals and substats changing stones. As we are close to over a month since Gear Transcendence is introduced, there are players who has sacrificed the third synergy bonus by using 3 more small attack pieces. The rationale for doing this is that you will gain additional 5 substats to improve your mage. 7 full transcended gear piece set will give you 35 substats, while 8 full transcendence gear pieces will give you 40 substats. Lots of players who have spending power are enchanting the substats with magic attack percent or attack percent as the transcended substats, so they can boost the magic attack or attack to above 40k. Building these type of gear sets requires lot of YUL, gear pieces, duplicates, enchantment stones, and substat changing stones. So do your accumulation of the required resources first before you start to building your attacking gear for these setups. Until you get the requirements and have strong substats that I have mentioned, it will still be more beneficial to use the 4 large attack and 3 small attack piece setup with 3 gear synergy boost. With the introduction of Mirioliana, mono green team comps in PvP will also rise to prominence. Useful mono green mages include the following. When using a mono green team comp, Ceremony Charlotte will grant barrier to all mages that scales off 80% of her HP at the start of the turn. If you have Ceremony Charlotte at LR +2, she can give the barrier buff to the mage with highest attack whenever she takes her turn. When using a mono green team comp, Party Mimosa will give the mage with the highest attack invulnerability at the start of the battle. Invulnerability will result that mage to receive 0 HP damage. Vanessa will add further utility for mono green team comp is that she will give a defender mage the red thread of fate buff, which gives the green defender mages the immortality buff if their HP drop to 30%. Her special also grants 2 turns of invulnerability buff, which helps to allow Spirit Dive Yuno to have invulnerability upkeep at all times. On the screen, you can see some possible combinations of mono green team comps with Spirit Dive Yuno. The success of the team comp will heavily hinges on Mirioliana as well. For PvE, Yuno can be very budget friendly, as you can equip him with any attacker type skill page while pairing him with the relevant supporter mages like Sally for critical rate and critical damage up, Swimsuit Gauche for damage and penetration up, Gipso for attribute weakness boost, Voltos for magic attack up and mobility boost, and Finral for speed up and critical rate buff. You can see some examples of team comps featuring Spirit Dive Yuno as the main attacker mage for limited Hall of Illusions missions when the unit is released in JP. Prior to the announcement of Valkyrie Noel, lots of content creators have recommended to skip Spirit Dive Yuno. Now, everyone has changed the opinion of that because how well Spirit Dive Yuno kit complements with Valkyrie Noel. Valkyrie Noel's passive will only trigger if she is the lone defender mage in party, so you cannot use Black Asta or Mirioliana with her. Thus, making Spirit Dive Yuno a valuable festival mage to use if you intend to get Valkyrie Noel when she is released in the future. To make the strategy works, it will be a costly investment as usual for most festival mages. You need to have Spirit Dive Yuno's skill page at max enhancement to have +3 SP buff activation whenever Yuno attacks a target. Yuno also need his LR +2 passive for invulnerability buff activation when he gains Spirit Dive buff. Pairing him with Valkyrie Noel, Spirit Dive Yuno can relentlessly spam his special every turn unless the opposition have SP reduction mechanics thanks to Valkyrie Noel's AoE SP buff every turn. Valkyrie Noel seems to have the highest speed stats in the entire game. Using the combo attack with Valkyrie Noel, you can remove immortality units like Clover Academy Fuego Leon, Licht, Julius, Party Costume Charmy, etc. The combo attack will also grant Spirit Dive Yuno 100% invulnerability uptime. In other words, Spirit Dive Yuno cannot be damaged until someone remove the invulnerability buff or buff has lapsed. With this, I have come to the end of my video guide presentation. Hopefully, this will assist you in making your decision whether to pull for Spirit Dive Yuno. Looking forward to see you in the next video. Have a nice day and bye.